watching so far.
Hey guys, what's going on? We're about to interview the famous Dr. Andrew Wakefield. We're just waiting for him to connect right now, but I just want to give him a quick introduction before we begin. So while we're waiting, I'll read his bio, his intro, and then we'll just talk about him until, I guess, in a good way, until he decides to join us. So born in England, Dr. Andrew Wakefield was a world-renowned gastrointestinologist, respected by his colleagues and sought after by his patients for his expertise in the field. He was the author of over 30 medical research papers. In 1988, his peer-reviewed paper that he co-authored with 12 other doctors, ileolymphoid nodular hyplasia and nonspecific colitis and pervasive developmental disorder in children, came under fire when parents who were suspicious that vaccines caused their child's autism used it as a scientific reference to back up their claims. Even though it was mentioned in the paper that connections between vaccines and autism still needed further study, Wakefield became the target of a vicious disinformation and decriminalization campaign led by journalist Brian Deere and backed by the corrupt pharmaceutical industry. Even though he had evidence to back up his claims and support from his patients and their parents, his medical license was revoked. He was wrongfully dubbed the father of the anti-vaccination movement due to slothy and shoddy research by journalists and financial backing by the pharmaceutical industry, which had a vested interest in getting people not to question vaccines. Misinformation about this situation has spread like wildfire, leaving people to believe that this real-life hero is actually a villain. Dr. Wakefield, who now lives in America, has taken up directing. He has 2 films under his belt, Who Killed Alex Bourilakis and Vax. He has also authored a book, Callous Disregard. He is now the subject of the documentary, The Pathological Optimist, which shows the journey of his wrongful accusations and the effect that they've had on his life and his family. All right, so I would say please welcome to the show, Andrew Wakefield, but I'm going to save that until he actually connects with us. So hopefully he said everything's good to go, but
yeah,
shall we see.
Yesterday, so hopefully, everything's God willing and everything's going well. He'll be able to connect next soon. So.
Yeah. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, like, we can just talk about, like, I heard about Andrew Wakefield a while ago, maybe like 7 years or so ago. Yeah. And I remember you had a Facebook fight with 2 of my friends. Yeah. And you were talking about your situation, and like, this guy had the nerve to tell you that's not what happened. Like, your son didn't get injured by a vaccine, even though he's never met you, even though he wasn't there. He obviously thought he knew what happened. And then I remember Andrew Wakefield's name being mentioned on the thread. So I was like, who is this guy? So, and I remember, like, I went to bed that night, and then I woke up and there were like 20 like plus messages between you guys. Yeah. Like, what's going on? Like, and you really impressed me with your knowledge, because you just made him look dumb. He didn't know what he was talking about. And I didn't really know this until I actually went and researched what you were saying. So,
So good. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that was a funny interaction, or that was a kind of early on when I was starting to talk to people about vaccines, because my son was pretty young still at the time. And I do remember that was, he threw that Andrew Wakefield. And that's one of the things people will often throw in your face, is they go, oh, well, that doctor was discredited, so therefore the paper is wrong. But that's a logical fallacy, because they would have to read the paper and actually see if there was anything wrong with the paper and look for the reason why the paper was thrown out in the first place, because it didn't have anything to do with his research, as people don't really realize that it didn't have anything to do with his research. It was because he had, when he selected his control group, he had to get healthy children, as to do the comparison from the children that he was treating that were willingly involved in the study. And so he got, others to healthy children, and he couldn't, it was difficult to recruit healthy children. So he recruited them from his own children's friends, and and took their blood samples, and he, gave them compensation. And they said, well, that wasn't, you didn't have ethical approval. But that doesn't mean it was unethical. It just means he didn't ask for ethical approval because he didn't think there was anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And so that was the entire reason. And when people hear that, it's like, well, that was it. It was just the way he got the blood samples. It didn't have anything to do with his paper. So when people say, oh, he was discredited, therefore that paper doesn't count. No, it does count. It had nothing to do with that, you know. But I first heard of him from my son's doctor, my oldest son, not Aiden, the one who had the vaccine injury, but my oldest son, Avery. When I asked his doctor at the time about the MMR connection to autism, because I'd heard about it, he said, oh, no. That's his doctor in England, and they lied. Can you believe they lied? And blah, blah, blah. And he was like going off with the whole narrative, but he didn't say his name. He probably didn't even know it, you know, hadn't read any of this stuff himself, but it was just like, these doctors in England just lied about everything. And I was like, wow, okay. And he's like, so none of that's true. Don't believe any of that. And so, because he was trying to convince me to have Avery vaccinated, but that was like one of the worst things that could happen, because I did have Avery vaccinated and he didn't seem to have a reaction, at least not an overt one that I noticed. And then so that kind of later, when I was taking Aiden to get his vaccines, I didn't question it because I'd already asked the doctor with Avery. And so I didn't question it the second time around. And then Aiden did get hurt. So, you know, that was a really bad thing. And he didn't know anything. He didn't know what he was talking about. He was just, you know, obviously it was just the narrative that everybody has heard on the news. So checking if he's, we haven't heard from Dr. Wakefield yet. So standing by for that. But have you seen Vaxxed? You have seen Vaxxed, right?
Yeah. Oh, as a matter of fact, you talking about people not knowing what they're talking about. I'm gonna ask him this question, but I thought it was really funny because they usually have a Q&A after Vaxxed.
Yeah.
And he was there, and with the others, Del Bigtree and Polly Tommy, and so there was this lady that like gets up and she, you know, she's, first of all, she talks about how she's a lawyer and how she's like, you know, she's so smart. Like literally, she's like, yeah, you know, I consider myself to be a very smart and educated person, and I'm a lawyer. And she starts going off, and then she's like, but you know, this all really started with that doctor from England. And then Andrew Wakefield's like, Andrew Wakefield? She's like, yeah, I think that was his name. So this doctor in England, blah, 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 blah. And she goes off, and he's like, yeah, that's me. And she's like,
that's messed up.
And I was just like, she looked so stupid. It was the best. And it was like, please give me this lady's information so I know not to ever hire her as a lawyer.
Yeah, right.
So I wonder how many people, I think I've seen that twice, because I think I saw him one time too, when he was like, there was some protesters outside and he was talking to them, and then this guy, this little boy, he looked like he was like a teenager. He was like, yeah, it's because of that doctor.
Yeah.
And he's like, me? He's like, no, Andrew Wakefield. And he's like, no, yeah, I'm Andrew Wakefield. And they're just like, oh, well, yeah, like.
Right.
It goes to show you how much people believe the hype without even doing any research themselves. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know what the paper.
They don't, right. They don't know his name. And then, or if they do know his name, you know, they haven't read the paper, they haven't read anything. So they just get just from the name.
They think they read Wikipedia and NPR and Snopes, and they know everything, and science-based medicine. And
right. Or they saw the interview with Andrew Cooper.
Huh?
They saw the interview with Anderson Cooper. You know,
that was awful, dude.
One of those terrible interviews where they just, you know, ambushed him. And so
I think that,
oh yeah, that's, you know, that's what happened. That's the truth. That's the really reals.
Yeah, no, I lost all respect for Anderson Cooper. And I think that was the first place that I went after that conversation you had or the argument that you had with my friend, or my friend's boyfriend, but we're not friends anymore. He's a jerk. So, but yeah, I think that was the first place I sought out that interview with Anderson Cooper. And I was like, why don't you let him talk?
Right.
What is wrong with you? Like, I want to hear what he has to say. it was just so, and I wasn't really into conspiracies or anything like that at the time. So I was just like, this seems really fishy that you won't even like, I want to hear what he has to say. I don't know. I've always been sympathetic to that because I've been a victim of, I'm definitely not on the scale that Andrew Wakefield has, but I've definitely been a victim of being lied on and having my reputation ruined. It's just, just in school stuff that kids would say, or some of the things that people would say in college, whatever, like.
Sure.
So I can imagine on his scale, though. I mean, it's awful. He had his license revoked. It surely has, affected his family. Yeah. So after, going out reading the article, which is online, by the way, I put together a bunch of stuff when we post this. It's going to be in the link. So you can, for those of you that are curious, you can actually read the article. It says retracted over it, but you can still read it,
Right. Yeah, read it for yourself, because even though it's been retracted, like we said, it doesn't have anything to do with the research paper, what he actually researched, And it was the last pediatrician I took when my daughter was first born. She was actually on Andrew Wakefield's side. She doesn't deliver MMR at her office. I'm not going to say her name on air because I don't want to get her, I don't want to turn her into a blackball, but she's
yeah, they'll come after
do that because she read the paper, and she was one of the ones that told me that. She's like, no, there wasn't anything wrong with the paper itself, and I was like, I know, I read it. She's like, you did? That's really unusual for parents to actually read it, so they either come in and they either believe it or they don't, but they rarely ever actually have read it. And I'm like, well, yeah, I talk about it all the time, so I had to read it. Plus I read his book, and he discusses the research in the book. He goes into great detail of it in the book. So callous disregard. And when I saw Vaxxed, he was there too with Del Bigtree, and some of the guest speakers in there was like Karen Kane, and someone just came in and said they're looking forward to this. We are too, Clarissa.
Yeah, hopefully.
Like, comes on soon. I'm really excited.
Hey, somebody came on. Is there a question you want to ask? Type it in the comments. We're just getting used to the software, so maybe we can. You guys,
if there's something something that you've heard interviews with Andrew Wakefield and you something no one's ever asked before, and you have an idea, something that you'd like to know, or something if maybe it has been asked before but you've never seen it, go ahead and type that in. Let us know your comments, questions, anything. See how he's doing. I haven't gotten any feedback from him yet, so there we go.
I swear he's coming, you guys. He said he would.
Yeah, he said yesterday.
I swear. So,
but yeah, I saw Vaxxed, and I wrote a review. It's on my blog about it, but because it was really hard for me emotionally. It was really intense because it was like
you lived it. Yeah,
I thought that it was. I knew all that stuff because I'd done all the research before, and I was already aware of the whole cover-up with the CDC cover-up. And for those of you who don't know, the CDC in the United States actually did a study on a research study on the MMR and autism, and they found that it did cause autism in a large number of boys, especially it seemed to have a higher prevalence amongst Black or African-American boys. And they just buried the research. By what they did was they disqualified many of the subjects for not having turned in birth certificates. They did stuff like that, like, oh, well, they didn't turn in their ID, so they disqualified them, but they actually knew that the numbers were high. And so Dr. William Thompson, who was working for the CDC, and he was involved in the publication of that paper, he came out and he confessed to Brian Hooker, and who had been researching this for many, many years. And Brian Hooker actually never looked into MMR. He'd always been researching thimerosal and content, which is mercury in vaccines.
So in all the vaccines, but there's thimerosal in the MMR too, right?
Well, there's a trace amount in all the vaccines because they use it as a sterilant. So they don't list it as part of the ingredients because it doesn't actually, they don't put it in because if they put it in, it would kill the live virus. So it's a sterilant, so they use it to clean the syringes in a lot of them. I don't know how many because they don't tell you, but they claim that there is no such thing as a mercury-free vaccine because they have to use it or that they don't know what agent they've used to sterilize the vaccine. So
what happened to soap?
Right? Like yeah. Well,
soap.
I mean, what's funny is that, they sterilize, they take all this measure to sterilize these things, and yet they still let things in like pig virus and like, chicken leukemia and all this other kind of crap. And you're like, well, how did that get in there? Why didn't it kill those viruses? They just end up in there all the time.
There's a really good, I posted it on our wall, and maybe I'll repost it sometime in the future. But what's her name? Janie Roberts was talking about, who's a journalist, and she was talking about how she basically went and researched the vaccine labs, and because bacteria are bigger than viruses, so they kind of, when they're making it, they do a process to strain out all of the bacteria, so they can get bacteria. So think of like a colander, right, where you're pouring something in, maybe you're making a stew, and there are bigger chunks that don't go through the holes. But because if it's a viral vaccine, they need the viruses to go through the holes. So all the other viruses that came with it that they don't even want in the vaccines get through too. Yeah. They can't strain them out. So in that, they found oncogenes and chicken leukemia as well. Yeah. It was so gross. I was like listening to her talking to it, like stomach was turning. Well,
a lot of those that were contaminated with the chicken leukemia was circulated right around the time that the big autism boom was happening in the 1990s, the early 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, and nothing surprises me anymore. It's the same old. They don't want to do long-term studies. And you look at the Vax team, I think they have really reasonable requests. I know they wanted a moratorium of vaccines until they're able to do long-term studies, or until they're able to do thorough studies. They wanted genetic testing, and they wanted to repeal the 1986 vaccine.
Oh, hang on a second. I'm getting a call from a 512 area code. I have a feeling this might be Dr. Wakefield. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Hello? Yes, it is. Yeah, but it's okay. Just go ahead and, do you have the email? I sent you the email with the link. If you can.
It's not working?
The link's not working. Well, I mean, I guess I'm using it on Google Chrome, so I assume, yeah. Oh, no. Okay. Okay, yeah. And if it doesn't work, just call me back. No worries. Okay, bye. Okay. So he says having difficulty logging on. So he realized that it has to go into Google Chrome now. So he's trying again. So if we need to, we might have to stop and start again. I don't
stop it and do like Hangouts or something.
Okay. Yeah, and send a new link out. So let's see if it's.
Okay. Like, I swear, he said he was coming. I swear.
Yeah. So that. So hopefully any minute now. He says it didn't work in his browser that he was using, so he's going to retry it in Google Chrome because it's telling him he has to use it through Google Chrome. So that's what I'm using it on. I didn't know.
Yeah, me too.
Work on other engines. This is a new engine for us too. So sorry, Dr. Wakefield here. He's coming any minute now, guys. So
yeah, Dr. Wakefield. No, I'm just kidding. Trying to be entertaining while our guests are waiting.
Yeah. Okay. He says, okay, he's still not getting in. So anything, so why don't, anything you can, do you want to, maybe it has to come from you? Maybe I can't send it because you're the one who started it.
Well, it should be just, hold on. Try this, copy to keyboard, I guess, add. Broadcast live section. Hold on one second. We're gonna send this to you through Facebook and see. Just send it to him.
Okay. All right, so we're going to try this again, guys. We're sorry to keep you waiting. For some reason, Dr. Wakefield was late getting on, and then now he's having trouble with the link. So we're going to try it again. All right, trying to join. All right. Let's see if that works. Is he calling me back? All right. Okay, guys, sorry. Please stay with us. We're
we're gonna
for Dr. Wakefield. So yeah. I mean, okay. I know that he technically lost his medical license, but to me, he's still more of a doctor than most doctors.
Yeah, he is.
Sure. You know, that get to still hold that title. So I still call him Dr. Wakefield. So he's we're standing by for him.
Oh shoot. Okay, hold on. To broadcast. One second.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We're waiting for.
Stand by, guys, please.
What did he say? He just called. What did he say?
Oh, he didn't call. He just sent a email that he wasn't able to get in. So I resent him the link that you just gave me.
Okay.
So I got nothing now. I guess he's just trying to get in. You are in the show. Let's see and hear you. Sorry for the dead air, guys. Hang in there. We're waiting for Dr. Wakefield.
Should I sing a song? I don't know. Should I juggle or something to like?
Someone asked a question. What is the exact ingredient?
Yay!
Is he on?
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna add him on.
Perfect. Thank goodness.
What is the exact? We'll answer it later. Hi, Dr. Wakefield.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh no, it's okay. We've been talking, and we're just happy to have you. We already read your bio, so
yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Like, we're happy to have you.
Live show. This live or?
Yeah, it is. It's on our Facebook.
Okay, all right. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to do a million things, but
no, I know you're mega busy, so it's not a big deal. Don't even worry. We're so honored that you're talking to us. We saw a clip where you a journalist approached you and you told them that you didn't talk to fake news. So we know that we're real news. We're very honored. I'm Christine, by the way. You talked to April before, so
yeah, this is we're Truth or Talk. So
yeah. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, off you go. Whatever, guys. Well, you take it away whenever you want.
All right, cool. So April, you want to shoot the first question?
Yeah. So right before you came on, we were Christine was telling a story about how she saw you at the Vaxxed premiere, and someone asked you a question, and they were basically talking about you as if, but they didn't, and you responded with, "Oh, do you mean Andrew Wakefield?" And they said something to the effect of, "Yeah, I think that was the guy's name." So we were just kind of wondering, how often does that happen? How often do people start talking about you to you?
To yourself. Yeah.
Not knowing the song. Yeah, it was a woman who was a lawyer in Austin, Texas. And
I was there. That was the same. Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
I know it never happened. It hasn't happened before. It was rather entertaining at the time. Poor lady decided to get up and leave with her daughter before the end. I think she was.
She humiliated herself.
Anyway, no, never happened before.
Okay, so yeah, I know it happened there because I was actually there in person. I saw that. So yeah, that was pretty funny. So knowing what you know now about the corruption in the medical industry, I'm just curious. Would you still pursue if you knew what you knew when you were younger, when you were pursuing a career in medicine, would you still become a doctor?
interesting question. Never been. Let me discourage my own children from doing medicine. Two of the four and I doing it. One of the reasons, which wouldn't have been relevant to me back in the day, is that my children had before, which would be hazardous in my opinion, relevant to when I entered medical school. It's a very good question, and I don't about it now. We've gone into medicine.
I'm sorry, you.
My grandparents and my great grandparents, everybody would. We were all doctors, so I suppose but I guess knowing that it was so corrupt and that it would. You see, agrees how corrupt it is, and therefore you don't give up the fight to was wrong from the very beginning, and therefore how big that fight was going to be, and how it was going to inevitably. The answer is probably no. I'd have found a more constructive way of doing it. I mean, a more way of making film, and as I've in the last sort of 10 years or so, and so perhaps I would have gone into filmmaking earlier.
Yeah.
And exposed.
I've thought about that. I often, I grew up in LA and stuff, and like around the Hollywood industry, and I've often thought, like, to be a director, you have to be, I would say, as smart. To be a really good director, you'd have to be just as smart as being a doctor, because there's just so much information that you have to know about a lot of different things, right? Not only you'd have to know about how to relate to people as actors, you'd have to know about lighting and sound and editing and story, and it's on such a deep level to make a good movie. But you're enjoying directing, huh?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I did it the other day, and absolutely terrifying. It's rather like presenting to your professor on the first ward round as a medical student. And everybody wants you to make a complete fool of yourself, but this is actually much more enjoyable. It's intimidating to start actors directing them, but actually it was one of the most enjoyable things I've done in the last 20 or 30 years. It was absolutely marvelous. So I love it. I'm just going to turn that backlight off.
Yeah, you're slowing down a little bit too. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what I can do.
That's better. It was very distracting. Sorry, I could have fixed this up better if I didn't.
Oh, it's okay. We're really laid back. We're not,
Yeah.
We're not picky. We try and keep the show very laid back and a little bit comical. People take themselves too seriously sometimes. So when we interview our guests, even on serious topics, we try and keep it very lighthearted.
If we can, yeah. Do you, would as many doctors, have like yourself who go through the medical school and you go through the whole process and everything and feel kind of deceived at the end? Did you feel when you came around the other side and you looked at what was going and you were doing your research and you kind of saw how the system was run, were you angry? Did you have you seem like you kind of kept an optimistic attitude, but did you feel mad?
I found what I determined was trained in medicine was to put the patient first above everything else, all other considerations. There was no lies about that. That's what you did, and medicine wasn't actually like that. It was like that, but by the pharmaceutical over. Then the priority became serving the wishes of and less about the patient. And so having science and to have all of that effectively neutralized. No one took any, I mean, they did take notice, but it didn't have the impact that it should have done. What it should have done is led to more research. That's what it should have done, but it was made so radioactive that no one wanted to touch it. And that was at the, you know, in the interests of the industry and public health, and not in the interests. So it made me, what I witnessed from, I guess, from about 2004 onwards, refused for doctors to pay attention to intestinal problems in children with autism, because that was synonymous with vaccine injury, and therefore it was going to be bad for the children. Suffered for a very long time because of the lies told by Brian Deere and others, and it was a great.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm sure, like it is for all of us, it's scary and really upsetting that there was this information that you were putting out that just could have been researched further, and then now we're looking at like 1 in 38 kids with autism, which is just, I mean, it's obscene, right? I mean, it's just but this is something that could have been slowed down, or it may, I'm sure not stopped completely, but slowed down if we had done that. So, I mean,
you know, sorry, I was going to say on that point, when you discover that the CDC had not only confirmed but extended those findings and identified high-risk groups of children, and then concealed that in documents, that's absolutely so. Yes, we could have been so much further on. We could have resolved large part because of special interests, because of a refusal to acknowledge a failure on the part of the millions of children.
right.
And that's unacceptable.
And then as a doctor who is treating children with autism too, and then having, you know, all that stopped, you know, I look at that from as a mother, you know, of a child with a vaccine injury. I'm like mad at the fact that when there's a
Right, but you're breaking up a little bit there. You're frozen.
Let me see. Hold on 1 second.
We need to unfreeze you.
April? Okay, hold on 1 second. We're having some technical difficulties. 1 second. Hold on. 1 second. She's come back.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Just went. Oh, snap.
Okay, so go on. You're basically saying, as a mother,
April, you.
You're basically saying, as a mother of a vaccine-injured son, you find it angry because you're mad that the research stopped at a certain level. That was the last one.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would have been helpful to his recovery. You know, so much was stood in the way of the research being done to try and find out how we could, you know, solve some of these problems with the autistic enterocolitis, you know, because they say, well, that's not, you know, that's a fake diagnosis. I'm like, really? Because my son has exactly that, as you described it, exactly. And so and that was exactly the scenario. It was right after the MMR and everything. So for me, I'm like, well, I would have liked to have doctors available who didn't feel like they had to, some of them like yourself, who you lost your license, but others have just had to kind of go back into research, and they can't work with children as much because of the heat on the research that they're doing. And so that makes me upset, because it would have been nice to have more doctors available that could actually help our kids.
For sure. For sure. And even now, like, you know, it as we know now, it's not just autism, but it goes into a lot of autoimmune conditions and stuff. Like I even though April is the one that got me researching it because of what happened to your son, I have really bad asthma and allergies and some other autoimmune issues. So for me, you know, it also ticks me off too, because I think this could have paved the way to helping me recover too as well. So it's just this chain effect that, like, it's affected a whole lot of people, you know, just because of the selfishness and the vested interest of the pharmaceutical industry, basically, that doesn't want people to question the efficacy and safety, quote unquote vaccines, you know?
Well, it's a political thing. It's not really about the medicine.
They're creating it at one end with the vaccines, and then making a profit just an ordinary situation.
Yeah, you know, it's very frustrating. It's very infuriating. You know, I'm curious. I wanted to be a doctor for the longest time before I discovered the arts. I had a really like special bond with my pediatrician, and I was a geek. I would like read medical books, and I thought I was actually going to be a doctor for a while. And now that all this stuff is, and I took a different path, but now that all this stuff is coming out about how vaccines are very harmful, I look at a lot of people that have become doctors, and I know that, you know, if you're going to become a doctor, you have to really start at an early age. You know, the amount of people that go into this field are extremely dedicated, sacrificed a lot. And, you know, by the time they're out of medical school, they're also in a lot of debt. And it's, you know, so there's like this whole system that's put in place for them to, that makes it hard for them to question anything that they've been taught in medical school. And I find it very, I kind of find it sinister, but I've often wondered, has anybody talked of having like a class action lawsuit against medical schools? Because now we know the pharmaceutical industries control the curriculum. And I just think it's really unfair for doctors to be taught the wrong thing that's actually harming people that they wanted to help.
Yeah, and I don't know that anyone's ever considered an action against medical schools. I mean, you're quite right. You become an achievement, right? You become so dependent on your income as a doctor. I mean, huge as a that you daren't question the system because you've got no other way of paying back that debt.
Right.
A subtle form of enslaving the medical profession.
Yeah, I would say that. You know, I know there's Oh, I'm sorry, you cut out. I thought you froze. I thought you were done. I apologize.
No.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I wonder, like, you know, I know you're a father. How many kids do you have, if you mind me asking?
Sorry?
I know you're a father. How many kids do you have, if you mind me asking?
Four.
I'm sorry, I can hear.
Three boys and one girl.
Okay, so you have 4 kids. So I'm sure that this affected them deeply too. Like, how have they taken it? Are they? I'm assuming they're adults now, right?
Okay. They're adult. It's sort of 20. Gosh, I think around that, changing, and yeah, they've done very well. You know, they're great people. They've never questioned. Been very, very supportive. They've rarely encountered any kind of question, you know, in graduate agencies. And I think what they've learned about is kind of doing the right thing, whether it's kind of the right thing. They're great kids.
I was just curious because I was thinking, I was just assuming maybe like while this was going on, they were younger, if they got bullied in school and stuff like that, you know, over.
They're pretty big. I don't think that.
Yeah,
so that's
I have seen your person. You're a pretty tall guy, so. Yeah.
Well, that's sick. They look like a dwarf.
So no, not so much.
People didn't tend.
That's good.
Okay. You ever thought about? You're so tall. Have you ever thought about playing basketball? I'm kidding. That could have been a good career too. You could have made a lot of money.
That would have been
yeah. Really tall.
So when you wrote the paper, do you still have any contact with Dr. John Walker Smith?
not for I think the whole thing sort of, John was a very, very distinct, impeachable. This hit him very, very hard, the whole thing. It was not something that particularly got to granted. And so it hurt him very badly. And I think he wants to just mind and forget, enjoy his return.
Just put it behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame it. I mean, I can understand, and you know that you've just pushed forward with it the whole time. I think a lot of us, you know, have a lot of admiration for that, because I don't know if I had gone on, you know, Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos and, you know, been sort of ambushed like that, that would have really, I don't know. I mean, I might have wanted to go into hiding, just because that experience must have been. I mean, how did you take that? First of all, when I watched that, I remember him saying, like, he kept saying over and over that he read your book. And I was going, no.
Like, no, he didn't. No,
I knew he was lying, because I had read it and he obviously didn't know any of the content. So what was that like? What were you thinking? Did you want to just say, no, you really didn't read my book?
Well, no, you know, it has been tough, certainly with the mainstream media. But it was very, very tough for a while. And then I realized that actually it was about something much more important, much bigger. Mm-hmm. And it's about the future of the children of the action. I was there as a sort of foil for the mainstream media and the industry to that was really a piece of showmanship. It wasn't actually about me at all. And so when I came to terms with that, it was very easy to deal with it. You've just got to keep going. It's such an important issue. You can't walk away from it. So once I had coaching, it was very much easier.
So you just realized you didn't take it personal, because you were just the example. I guess it was like, we're going to make an example of this guy.
It's their game, and if you play their game, then they're going to win, because they write the rules. But if you don't play their game, then your game or your set of rules, and you play by that, and that makes it much easier.
You know, has anybody ever apologized about being wrong about you? Has anybody ever come up to you and said, I believe the hype about you, and I actually, you know, look into it and I feel bad and I apologize?
A handful, so on the internet as well, which is very, you know, very reassuring. And not least of which was William Thompson, of course. The CD wrote text saying, you know, if we'd been honest all those years ago, then your career would have been very different. And I'd like to write. It's a little too late for that. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it was reassuring to hear that after all these.
Now that you bring that up, I kind of remember that, because I think there was a text that was made public on Twitter or something, and you said that you forgave him, you know, immediately, like not a doubt. Huh?
Then I was accused of faking the text. I have no idea how you would have even begin to fake a text. Now I go, anyway, yeah, for 1 year, was industry funded bloggers accused me of make up this text, the text, you know, with the date and who it's from and everything else, and it was very ridiculous. But,
yeah, I just so now you have this movie out that is called The Pathological Optimist, and I heard you say in one interview that you were reluctant to have this movie done about you, or it's a documentary about you. Could you actually tell us what it's about in your words? I'm just assuming. I haven't seen it yet. So what is it about?
It started with Miranda Bailey, who's the producer director, pursuing me to make a film about it wasn't about me, as I said. It was about a much more important issue. About Andy didn't appeal at all. And then so Miranda pursued me for years, and she would turn up at meetings and film anyway and ask. And then we sued Brian Deere and the British Medical Journal in the outrageous claims of fraud against the Lancet paper. And these were so easily demonstrated to be defamatory and false that a case would have been very, very useful. And at that point I said, yeah, because in drama people can see objective evidence and they can make up their own mind. It's not just a story about a doctor. So she proceeded, and unfortunately we were not given jurisdiction to sue them, so the case never changed. And so at that stage Miranda had invested a lot of time and money in capturing all this footage and had no thought it was the end of it. I guess William Thompson was the end of that story, Vax, and so she then made this character piece about me. So I get to the not being the film that I wanted it to be. But you know, when you agree to get in, you don't assume any. Oh, it's up to the filmmaker to decide what they want to do with their film. You've signed up to it, and so it's a commendable job with what she had.
And so, what do you think of the title, as they call it, the pathological optimist? It's a little strange.
Well, I used the term in an interview. I used the term. I said the pathology, so on and so forth, and she adopted that as the title. And I think that I was first called the pathological optimist by my friend in Boston or someone similar, and it just got adopted into the film.
Right. Because optimist to a fault, right? So you see a silver lining still despite all these things that have happened. Is that where they're going with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tricky to do that, but you know, you gotta believe.
Well, you got to have faith, you know, even though it's stacked against you. I mean, right? I mean, all of us have autism moms. That's how we've managed to get our kids better in the cases that we are able to do that, even though people say, well, no, there's no hope. You know, this is a lifelong illness. There's no cures. There's nothing like that. But, you know, if you're not sort of an optimist to a fault, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't keep that.
You can't just sort of bury your head and.
Right. I don't really get how people think that we can even do that. It's like we have so much to do. I don't even know where we would be able to just kind of bury our heads.
Yeah. How many people do you guys go sensitive to?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I lost that last
part. How many people do you go out to? How many listeners do you have?
Oh, how many listeners on our show? I
really don't know. I know we're broadcasting it from Facebook, and we've been really active in pumping up our Facebook page. And right now we have about 3,600 followers. So they're probably gonna. We don't have maybe a lot of people watching at the moment. It's Sunday morning, but I know there are people that are gonna tune in later. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
well, Holly came off the Vax tour, and we finished that. What people wanted more, and we're trying to work out what to do. So we just a channel on Roku. It's called Peeps TV. So it's sort of television by the people, for the people.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
if everybody wants to catch up on what's going on after the tour, then you have to get a machine, which is a couple of bucks in Walmart, but it's working. It enables people to what we're in the film world as well.
So when is the tour wrapping up? I know you said she just finished.
Our bus just gave up the ghost. It's just,
no! What? She was just gonna try and continue as long as she could, but the bus gave you guys the.
The bus has become our office back in Austin, or our sort of studio. But it's not going to go anywhere ever.
Yeah, you guys have done a wonderful job documenting the stories, the anecdotal stories of vaccine injury, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people say that anecdotal evidence is not evidence, but yet they show us pictures of people in iron lungs and horrible pictures of people in that have smallpox to get us to vaccinate. So it's like, there's nobody's that I have known has read a study showing that the smallpox vaccine or the polio vaccine or any of the vaccines that they try and get us to take is effective. It's all just kind of built on trust, or it's built on it's pushed by fear, by showing anecdotal evidence on the other end. So it's this hypocrisy where they're trying to get us to get vaccinated based on anecdotal evidence, but yet they when we pull up anecdotal evidence of vaccine injury, like they don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, the double standard.
You're absolutely right.
Now, a lot of people have. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. A lot of people have been writing in the chat. They've been wanting to know. I know, that you're not considered a medical doctor any longer by license. Are you allowed to give medical advice? They've been asking questions like, do you recommend any herbal supplements or anything like raw milk, or have you seen anything that's helped people with vaccine injury?
Well, many things. I mean, I'm still, you can't take license to practice, but I'm not in England anyway. So, and I can give medical, I can give advice, I can have a conversation, I have no registration. The medical authorities in this country have no jurisdiction over me whatsoever. So I, as a citizen of this country, I can, and I don't charge anyone for anything, so I'm not acting as a professional doctor. I'm perfectly entitled to express that conflicts with other people's opinions or not. And have I seen things that help children with autism? Absolutely. Enormous insights into how treatment and healing of the gut can have a profound effect on a child's autism, whether that's through anti-inflammatory, inflammatory, dietary intervention, excluding gluten and casein in particular from diets, whether it's through digestive antibiotics, a huge number of things that can make incremental improvements in children and get them better. So one of the things that when I was practicing, about 10% of children were completely refractory to anything you did. You could not help them. And these were the sorts of children that as teenagers started developing seizures and aggression and self-injury. And despite everything that was done, no improvement. And the one thing that's really changed that, observing it again from an perspective in seeing children since I stopped clinical practice, is medical marijuana. It really targeted those seizures and aggression and self-injury that we could not do before. So just step, one of the most important ones that I've seen, certainly in the last few years.
Clarissa Bennett says she had the pleasure of meeting you in Sarasota, Florida, She says, "You're an amazing man, Dr. Wakefield. Thank you for all you," it's cut off, "all you do." So I'm sure you get, yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of parents that and people that thank you too. I'm sure that's one of the things that keep you optimistic, of course, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Let me see. Is there anything else you got, April? Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you before we go? I wanted to know, I saw that they had a Vaxxed premiere in Italy, and then a few months after that, I saw they had like a huge march in Italy. Do you know what the situation with their vaccine rights is in Italy at the moment? What's going on with that from your point of view?
On the back of that, Vax played in Italy, and they did everything they could to censor it, but it played nonetheless. The cameraman, Francesca Alesi, who lives in New York, actually, is Italian, and she organized much of that, although many of the peace marches, those protests, went because of her. And Bring Vax to Italy website. And as you say, there was all over the country marches, because what they tried to do, what they did, was to force mandatory vaccination on the Italian people. Because up the region of Venice is now seeking to secede from Italy and to become independent again, this law. So, and it was really, again, one of those things, I think, that GlaxoSmithKline, they wanted their 6-valent, their hexavalent vaccine to be the sort of market leader in Italy. It's all so again, the same sort of situation. Doctors who provided them, or who would revoke, and it's been tragic. But I think what we're heading for now in Italy is a complete overhaul of the governance of this law. That people are so angry about it in Italy that I think we're going to see some remarkable changes in the next election. I don't think this law is going to have it thrown out.
Yeah, I was actually really moved and surprised to see so many people there. I was like, could you come to America and like march with us as well? Because I don't know what the deal is. I mean, I feel like they're not, maybe people have to work, or I don't know, like I feel like there should be that amount of people that were marching in the streets or more in America, you know, here. But
well, there should have been. Why would that? I think that, you know, it's a little disappointing. You know, politicians respond to pitchforks at the window, and you've got to march.
Yeah, April, you got anything else? I think I'm done.
No, yeah, we can go ahead and let you go about your day if you're.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, you know, I don't know if you noticed you were kind of freezing a lot on your end, but I didn't want to stop you, and we were just so honored that you chose to interview with us, and so grateful. And keep on doing what you do. We'll pray for you, and send you good energy. And yes, maybe we'll get to meet in person. I actually met you in person a while ago, but it was at the Health Freedom Expo. But it was briefly. So.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye. April, stay on. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We were having a lot of technical problems there with on his end. He was freezing up a lot, and I was having difficulty hearing him. So I hope that everybody can hear him. Okay, did you hear him all right, or somewhat? Yeah, we didn't know, and it was. I was trying to look through and see what I can do during the interview, but I think it was his end, and I don't know how conspiratorial you want to get, but it's Facebook. They're censoring. He's Andrew Wakefield, so who's to say that they weren't trying to interfere? Algorithms now, they can program them to interfere things. So if they recognize Andrew Wakefield and stuff, then the algorithms would, True that, I know it's true. Like I wonder about that myself, because you know, sometimes I feel like that stuff does go on, you know, especially with a guy like him. I mean, I don't know. But
we didn't have difficulties.
We didn't have any difficulties, and then it was only him on his end, you know. So hopefully we, I don't know, if we get a different system set up, maybe we can try to interview him again. And I didn't want to keep him on since go over any time, just because we were having so much problems. So I don't know how much people were able to hear everything that he was saying, but I think that was great, you know.
Yeah, it was great. It was good. You know, we got what we could. Let me you know, before we send it, I want to read some of the comments. Is that okay, April?
Yeah, please do. I've been trying to read them as they pop up.
Yeah, it's so Michael Daly, DTaP. My son was damaged by the step vaccine and now is sick due to flu mist shedding. What is a step? Oh, you mean DTaP?
That's what he meant. That's why he said. That's why he wrote back DTaP.
Got you. Okay. Oh, okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Oh man, you know, I'm so sorry. Every time I hear that, it just angers me to no end. You know what makes me upset too? Have you noticed that there's this pattern now too? Now that they have the new emojis, I've noticed. We had a thread on our page, and people were talking about how they were vaccine injured, and then people will come and they'll put the laughing emoji on it, just to try and start something, just because they know that they don't really have any, like they don't want to hear the information, but all they have for a reply is a laugh emoji.
Well, that's appeal to ridicule. I mean, that's a logical fallacy called appeal to ridicule. It means you're wrong because ha ha ha. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just that they have no argument. So their only argument is ha ha ha. You know, so when people do that, you can pretty much ignore them. Or if you want to say something, go, okay, do you have anything besides appeal to ridicule? You know, start pulling out their logical fallacies, and you show how they have nothing. And then they'll say, well, you know, we need everybody to get vaccinated because of herd immunity. And you say, well, that's a hoax. So next. So herd immunity cannot be proven through vaccination. So next, you know, thank you, Shirazad. Love you.
Thank you, Andy, for everything. Okay, Veronica Lee says, thank you, Andy, for everything. I just saw Pathological Optimist and adore your family. Love to you. So if he maybe sees us later. Sorry we didn't get these in while we were interviewing, but I'll just read it. We have enough that we can read them. You know, it's not an overwhelming amount of comments. So Camilla Millie, a selfless hero. Andrew, thank you so much for all you do, an inspirational human being. True that. Just found the movie on iTunes for only $6.99. Noel Maria Herrera Michaels. Oh, okay. Really? It's supposed to be in the theaters. Michael Daly, they can never take away your medical degree. Well, I guess technically they can take away his degree, but they can't take away his knowledge, and they can't take away the love that people have for him, and they can't take away the patients that he's healed, right?
Yeah.
Best wishes from Scotland. You're a national hero, Andy.
I recommend anybody goes and listens to some of his scientific lectures on the brain connection.
Let me say that again.
I recommend anybody go and listen to his medical lectures on the gut-brain connection, because no one understands it like Dr. Andrew Wakefield. I mean, I think he, you know, the whole controversy around him, we forget that this was a world-renowned doctor, and, you know, people came from all around the world for gastrointestinal issues that they couldn't get help from their normal doctors or for their gastrointestinal in their area. So they all came to his clinic for help. Okay. Because that's how much he understood the gut. And then he knows a lot about why the gut, the inflammation in the gut and the problems within the gut can lead to a neurological disorder, because he understands that. So if people want to look at the gut brain axis and some of the lectures that Andrew Wakefield has done, and I'll, you know, see if I can find someone, we can put them in the description after the live broadcast. You know, it's really important. Like, don't forget, this guy is a scientist, and he, you know, for really reals, not for play, you know, like the most, right? So,
sure.
Yeah.
Like, You know what I also found interesting? I saw this a while ago. I'm going to put it because I already been gathering some links. If you want to give me some links when we repost this later, or I'll repost them in the description. His interview with Dr. Arthur Krigsman, who used the pill camera to go and prove that there were measles in the intestinal lining of the stomach. How gross is that? How gross is that?
Can you imagine how painful that would be? I mean, think about these kids that are like just posturing and just writhing in pain and like head banging and like banging into stuff. And if you consider that, and it looks really bizarre from the outside, but if you realize that they actually have measles rash on their inside of you, like think about how that would feel, like how awful, it feels on the outside, but now it's in your gut. It's like if you've ever had, everybody's had a stomach flu or something like that at one point or another. It's like the worst thing ever. You're going to be feeling like that day in and day out for weeks on end. It's like, we'd all be like,
Totally.
Right? You just be like, I just want to, crawl out of myself. I mean, that's awful. So Arthur Krigsman, we'll post some information, but Dr. Arthur Krigsman, and Andrew Wakefield were all at the Thoughtful House Clinic in Austin, and they pretty much had to break that up because once and they were doing this research, and he was looking for what was going on in the intestines of these kids. So he invented a tiny camera that was small enough that they could swallow it. And that's how they were able to take pictures and found that they actually had gotten measles from the vaccine, but it didn't express out. It went into their intestines.
Yeah, because guys, anytime you get like a disease and like smallpox, measles, whatever, you get the little bumps on your skin. It's actually your immune system's reactions trying to push whatever virus is in your skin out.
Right. So it's a positive thing to have a rash.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. That means your immune system's functioning properly, and it's the way that it's supposed to. And there's actually a lot of medical science to back that contracting the measles naturally and not suppressing it through vaccination, it actually has a positive outcome, that people who have contracted measles naturally through natural acquisition, not through the vaccine, have stronger immune system, or actually have anti-cancer, like they're less likely to get cancer and things like that. So
they're actually using that as a way to, they're using that as, they're going to use measles in vaccines to prevent cancer, or to help people that have cancer, which, I mean, I think it's retarded, but whatever. Because the reason I was reading, maybe there's different, but I read where they got the idea was they noticed they had some cases where people that had tumors, their tumors spontaneously just shrunk completely when they got the measles.
Right. So now they're going to try to artificially do that, and it's probably not going to work.
Because it's not going to work.
No, because
it's going to cause some other disease, and then we're like, oh, we just need a vaccine to fix that too.
Oh, Maureen's asked, is Crohn's and colitis, is that caused by the measles in the intestines? Possibly. I mean, Crohn's and colitis is just a really severe inflammation, and I think in the gut, colitis just means it's inflamed. So something causes it to get inflamed in the first place. So that could be a viral infection or a bacteria or toxicity. Any number of things can cause that severe inflammation. And then it doesn't ever really, the body doesn't ever really remove it. So the inflammation never goes down on its own. And it's just being in constant use because it's your gut, right? So you're always eating. So you're always needing to use it. So that inflammation it's just something that doesn't go down. It takes forever to go down. Go ahead.
No, possibly, because it's like where I was saying when you have measles or any other viral disease where you get bumps and stuff, you're expressing out. So your body's pushing it out, but now it's pushing it in, so it has nowhere to go. So it's constantly. So you guys should Google Crohn's disease and colitis. It looks awful. Google image, and it's the images I came across aren't graphic in the sense that they're not real photos, but they're like illustrations of what it looks like. It looks awful. Maureen
said that she has Crohn's, and so from what I understand of Dr. Wakefield, before he started looking at autism, he was looking at Crohn's disease, and so he was looking at the measles vaccine implicit in causing Crohn's disease, and then he what happened was a lot of the kids with autism, they came in as just patients for their gastrointestinal issues. And so she said she's been in remission for 2 years through nutrition. Well, good on you. Way to keep that up. You know, that's, I'm glad to hear it. But that's what they were originally looking at. And so they found that the kids with autism, they had autism, but they also had these gastrointestinal issues that were similar to the patients with Crohn's. And so that's how he went down that road. You know, and he even talks about it in his book and in a lot of his interviews that, you know, a woman, the mother of a child with autism called him and said, you know, I have a son with autism who regressed after MMR. And he said, well, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. I don't know anything about autism. And then she was like, no, but you don't understand. He has all these gastrointestinal issues, just like the ones that you're describing in this. He said, okay, well, I'll just treat him as I would any of my other GI patients. So that's how the whole thing started.
Yeah.
And then he started getting a reputation for that. He was treating kids when nobody else was doing it at the time, you know?
Yeah. Mary Kelly Godley, I think I'm saying it right. Dr. Wakefield's book completely changed completely how I saw my son and what happened to him. The truth was jumping out of the pages at me and led me to getting a diagnosis of Adam's bowel disease. It was the start of my journey into acknowledging that my son didn't just have autistic-like symptoms, but also a host of medical conditions. It was my awakening, really. Wow. I hate that. I hate that autistic, like those like evil semantics.
Right, semantics.
Like, oh, they don't have autism, they have autistic-like. Like, no, like.
Right, well, that's the Hannah Pauling case. Like, they didn't concede that the MMR caused her to have autism. It caused her to have autism-like symptoms, which, you know, the DSM, I mean, they diagnose it by symptoms, yo. It's like, what else is there? I mean, that's how they diagnose it. It has, you know, there's, it's the behaviors. So there isn't any like. I mean, it is what it is. It's either it fits the criteria or it doesn't, you know? Yeah. So they say autism like, they just mean she had autism. And she was diagnosed with autism, and she was awarded $1 million from the Vaccine Injury Court for the MMR causing her autism, period. That's
No, and I honestly believe that she was able to get that because her dad was already like a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, like, right.
Yeah, because you usually need a doctor to vouch for you in the Vaccine Injury Court, because they didn't sue the pharmaceutical industry, they went through the court. So, you know, that's another reason why parents have trouble winning. I mean, there's so many just wrong things with that. Just the amount of parents, that don't know that vaccines cause their sons or daughters injury. Then you have the fact that the amount of people that don't know about the VAERS system don't report to VAERS. Then you have the fact that, you know, when you go through the Vaccine Injury Court system, it's paid by the public, and you need a doctor really to vouch for you, but most doctors won't, either because they're scared or they don't want to acknowledge that it's a possibility. So I remember in that case too, they said that she had a mitochondrial disorder. Well, if that's the case too, everything was fine until she had that vaccine. So, you know, and this is the thing that the vaccine is pushing for. They're pushing for genetic testing. Mm-hmm. And why can't they do genetic testing? You know why? Because they know that it's going to affect everybody in some way. Not just autism, but autoimmune stuff or allergies. They know. You know, at the higher up levels, I don't even think the doctors really know this, that are administering the vaccines, but the higher ups know that there's no way they can genetic test people for who's more susceptible to getting injured, because they know that somebody's going to have some genetic reaction.
Right.
You know, Tina Ryan Killed. Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. And also, does raw milk help? What is your experience with raw milk?
I think that question was for Andrew Wakefield, but
yeah,
I don't know if he's had any experience with raw milk. I've never heard him talk about that. As far as I know, I mean, it depends. Raw milk is illegal in some states in the U.S., but if you live in a state where you can get it, I'd say give it a try and see how well it works. Well, I'm not really sure about. There has been some studies in the Middle East using raw camel's milk, which is really expensive, but there are companies in California that will ship it to different places around the world, and people are basically using it medicinally because it is very expensive. So you get just a small amount of it, and you can start using that. And there has been a couple of studies showing that it did improve the symptoms of children with autism using raw camel's milk. But as far as I know, there hasn't been anything research on cow's milk. And personally, we are still allergic to milk, even if it's raw. So I haven't really been able to use it.
Brad Ellis or DC, love Dr. Wakefield, a true American hero. Let me see. I think I'm almost done. Let me see. Shelforn, I've corresponded with you through our page. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, so please forgive me. It's a really cool name, though. So I'm seeing Shelforn Baliantine. I would like to know exactly what ingredient in vaccines causes autism and the science between the vaccine autism. I can probably send you some more links on that because it's a lot of stuff. So it's basically, autism is brain injury. So if you're putting thimerosal in vaccines, if you have human DNA in vaccines, and as there's a doctor who's a cellular molecular biologist named Teresa Deisher, who actually, she was one of the people that discovered stem cells in the heart. So she's pretty known, I guess, in the scientific community. But she's discovered that with the human DNA and the animal DNA, well, I think the human DNA, because I think there's somebody else that discovered that too, but both of the human and animal DNA that are in the vaccines, it has reverse transcriptase, and it's been able to integrate into our DNA. And that she thinks that's another way that people could become autistic. So you have neomycin, all like antibiotics, you have adjuvants, aluminum, you have just a lot of stuff that's in, that's being injected into your body that can cause autism. So that's why when people say, oh, we need to greener vaccines, I don't see how they're going to do that. Because none of the stuff in vaccines is good. None of it. It can harm you on different levels. So maybe for one person, they might become injured because, they had immediate reaction to the heavy metals, or they had immediate reaction to the animal DNA. That's why it's such a complex problem. And people are having, trouble curing their kids because, you really have to figure out what exactly in the vaccine caused the injury in the first place. And it could be a whole multitude of things. So it's not just one ingredient, and they can't, even though there's a huge push to get the mercury out of vaccines, it's more to it than that. And also just by the mechanism of vaccines, we're, as human beings, we're designed to, if we get bacteria and viruses, and we're designed to get it through our orifices. We're not designed, our immune system isn't designed to fight off something correctly when it's injected into us. Therefore, like when we mentioned people getting measles in the stomach, right? They can't, if it's under the dermis, right? We have the dermis, the epidermis, depending on the vaccine, some are injected into the dermis, and the epidermis is intramuscular. Wherever though, it's below the skin. So it's going to have trouble expressing out. So it could, result in all kinds of issues. Where did you get the vaccine? Did you move your arm? Where did it travel? Right? What's your genetic makeup? Did you already have autoimmune issues when you got injected with the vaccine? There's just so many factors.
Yeah. And then, Dr. Stephanie Seenoff from MIT, she says that there is ingredients in the vaccines that act synergistically with glyphosate and other things in our environment. Glyphosate being like the pesticide. Yeah. And so you can look up Dr. Stephanie Seenoff from, she's an MIT researcher, a scientist, and her hypothesis was that it was largely connected to the glutamate in the MMR vaccine, because that has a synergistic effects with the glyphosate, which she had researched. But I mean, so there are some people that have hypotheses on what specifically the ingredients are, but it's really, it could be any of them. Any one of them singly on their own can cause neurological problems.
Or all of them. It could be one of them. It could be all of them. And then it's also, we're not allowed to look at this either, but people do have genetic makeups according to their family history and their race and their ethnicity. So there's some people that are going to be affected differently than other people's with certain ingredients in the vaccine. So I hope that that answers your question. Clarissa Bennett, I've been looking forward to this. Thank you for putting the truth out for the world to see. No, thank you. Thank you, because you guys have been very supportive, and
we appreciate it.
Yeah. By the way, guys, we're looking for more Patreons because we want to do more patrons for the Patreon.
Patrons, we want more
patrons for the Patreon. Even if it's like $1, we don't care. Whatever. You know, we're just trying to.
We accept Bitcoin.
We accept Bitcoin and Litecoin. We're trying to
show. Because basically it takes time and money to do this, and we so we're just looking to be able to continue the work. And
buy April a lamp.
Yeah, you need to get me another lamp in this room so I'm not like dealing. I'm trying to be on sunlight, natural light,
stuff like that. So
or a new webcam or something. Like we use the money to usually we invest back into our show, and if anything that I receive, any extra I receive goes into my son's recovery as well. So anyway, go on.
Yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Are there any more questions? Are we all finished through the questions?
I think so, yeah. I think I went through the questions. We didn't have it was cool. We didn't have a lot. Let me just double check. Oh, 31 comments. Oh, shoot. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Well, hope we don't miss anybody. We're trying to be really thorough here,
Yeah, the way that this system is too, I have to like scroll back up because the questions go, it's weird.
Yeah.
12 Marine Green. That's a cool name. It has a very electric kick. Hold on. Okay. So Sardana, my youngest grandson came down with leukemia. He was fully vaccinated. And I attribute vaccines to one of the causes, DT, the formaldehyde. Yes, that's another ingredient too. It just everything in vaccines is poison.
Everything.
It's poison.
100%. Even the vial that they put it in. It's like the whole thing. And you can't. Some of these ingredients are so toxic that it's illegal to flush down the toilet. Some of them are so toxic that it's illegal to put them in your mattress or in your couch, but you can inject them into little babies. So I'm really sorry to hear about your grandson. That's,
12 hospitals in 6 years and none in the last 2 with remission and no meds. If you're listening, Maureen, you should also check out, if you haven't already, there's a docu-series. You might be able to find some of them on YouTube. I know you have to purchase them. And I know, we know the people, Ty Bollinger, the guy Ty Bollinger and his family, his wife Charlene, that started. But it's called The Truth About Cancer. And since your grandson is so young, so actually, let me back up a little bit. So The Truth About Cancer, and they also did another docu-series called The Truth About Vaccines.
Which I'm in.
Huh?
Which I was in.
April's in it.
I forget. Yeah, I was in it.
I forget. April forgets. Yes, April's actually in it. She's in The Truth About Vaccines. So anyway, yes. So the same people that did The Truth About Cancer did The Truth About Vaccines, and they actually, in The Truth About Vaccines, they have a lot of doctors talking about, the links between vaccines and cancer and vaccines and other things. But also with The Truth About Cancer, they have a lot of medical experts talking about alternative treatments to cancer and how dangerous chemotherapy and radiation is. I would suggest that you check that out and see what natural, there's so many, what do you call it? There's so many avenues now. There's so many cures for cancers, right? There's the ketogenic diet, there's Gerson therapy, there's rifamycin, there's oxygen therapy, there's anti-neoplasm therapy for brain cancer. There's so many much more healthier alternatives to cancer to rid somebody of cancer, because chemo and radiation and destroy the immune system. And a lot of times if somebody has tumors and the cancers are cut out of them, I would say, in my experience, I would say 100% of the time the cancer comes back stronger. And I remember in the Truth About Vaccines documentary, there was a doctor that was talking about like a tumor, if you can see this, like say these are roots, so this is the tumor and then there are roots. So imagine the roots going under my skin, right? So if you cut the tumor off, there's still pieces of there's still pieces of the cancer roots stuck in wherever they cut it out of. And those pieces get in the bloodstream and they travel throughout the body. So therefore, when they do that, the cancer comes back stronger. It usually comes back stronger and in different parts of the body, and that's why. So I thought that was very interesting. I haven't heard anybody talk about it except in that documentary. So even if that happens, I still think there's hope. I just don't think that I personally, God forbid I get cancer, I wouldn't do chemo, radiation, or surgery. Especially, like I said, now there's so many alternatives. And once you educate yourself about it, like the notion of cancer becomes less scary. But the thing is, you really do have to do a lot of research, look at a lot of what doctors have to say, and then compare it to, traditional medicine. So, God bless you and your family. I hope that, there's a happy ending for you.
100% recovery for your grandson.
This guy Macadilla, it's also been known that African boys with sickle cell anemia do not catch malaria. Oh, I didn't know that.
Say that again.
He said, I read that fast, I'm sorry. It is also known that African boys with sickle cell anemia do not catch malaria. And I know sickle cell is common in sickle cell anemia is common in African Black people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's interesting. I would like to, if you can send me in more info on that in our private message, I would trying to say, yeah, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Sherazade, great interview. Thank you, girls. Yes, at times he got cut on my cell, but I heard him much love. Anna Roger, hi, Anna. D-tap. Okay, I think that's it. But I think other than that, we gotta go. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, thanks for your support.
Repost this on here and on our YouTube page.
YouTube.
Yeah, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Like we said, we were just so not on it, and we have such a low subscriber base on our YouTube page, so we're trying to get that up as well. So if you are not subscribed to our YouTube page, we would love for you to do that as well.
Yeah,
so
we appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
Happy holidays, everybody. Peace.
Happy holidays. Peace and love. Mwah. Bye-bye.